All right, so let's continue the long-standing tradition of covering Japanese boxing here on True School Sports. True School Sports, the number one source for Japanese boxing in America. And shout out to the land of the rising sun and the land of the free and the home of the brave. And everybody out there in the world, all the fine folks in the world, all the beautiful people in the world. Shout out to you, wherever you're catching this video from. And this is a very important video in our Japanese boxing coverage because Masamichi Yabuki, pound for pound, one of the hardest punchers in boxing today, one of the best fighters in the world, one of the best fighters definitely from Japan right now. He's at a very interesting stage of his career because, Yabuki finds himself as one of the true dominant forces of the lighter weight categories. He finds himself in position for very big, very massive, and very lucrative fights. However, he's been in an interesting position because he was promoted by Tomoki Kameda, 3150 Promotions. Now, for those that don't know, and for those that do know, let me inform you. The Kameda, there's politics in Japanese boxing, maybe even more so than America, quiet as kept. Because we know that like the Al Heyman of Japanese boxing, or the guy that rules Japanese boxing with an iron fist for good, bad, or indifferent, is Akihiro Honda, Mr. Honda, Tekken Promotions. They oversee the whole operation, damn near the whole operation of big-time boxing in Japan. And Yabuki was not part of that equation. He was not with Mr. Honda, which would be problematic because Mr. Honda traditionally does not do business with the Kamedas. The Kamedas have a long checkered history in Japan with Japanese boxing, and they are looked at to be the outcasts of Japanese boxing. So they don't normally do business. There are sides of the street in Japan, and all the other champions, whether it be Olas Kuwaga and or Ricardo Sandoval, one way or the other, Mr. Honda has a piece of those guys. So if Yabuki's trying to fight those guys, or even a guy like, let's say, if he wants to move, if Yabuki had any ambition to move up a weight class and maybe fight a guy like Kenshiro Taraji for his new WBO title and do a trilogy fight, all those guys I named, he would have to deal with Mr. Honda at some point. And with Kameda in the fold, odds are that would not be the case. Now, it is worth noting, and I made a video about this already, that Yabuki has a mandatory defense due against a number one contender and the hard-punching Filipino fighter, Miguel Fajardo. And he's promoted by Sean Gibbons, and Sean Gibbons does business with the Kamedas and Mr. Honda, right? Because he's American, so it's a little bit different for him. But nonetheless, he was informed that Yabuki does in fact plan on leaving 3150 Promotions and Kameda and going with Mr. Honda. So with that being said, and with that being firmly established here on True School Sports, Sean Gibbons had stated that he's going to speak to Mr. Honda to see what's happening with the matter, and they're working on potentially finalizing that fight. But let's talk bigger picture here. How does this make Yabuki's career easier, and what does it mean for him long term? So let's talk about that, because Yabuki's at a stage of his career where I genuinely feel like his boxing skills have started to catch up a little bit to his punching power. And he's doing his best boxing later in his career. He went from an outright slugger and a guy that would exchange with you to now a legitimate, mature power boxer. A guy that can beat you up just boxing you with his jab and his right hand and things like that. He doesn't have to look for the knockouts because he's naturally heavy-handed, you understand? But now he can actually, if this is true, which all reports indicate that is true, that he is looking to be Mr. Honda at Tekken Promotions, then it makes everything that much more easier in him getting the fights against Ricardo Sandoval and or Anthony Olas Kuwaga. Now, I like the fight against Olas Kuwaga. I think Yabuki will have a great chance to beat Olas Kuwaga. Olas Kuwaga's flawed, but he's very strong, and he's had he's gotten some experience now with fighting guys like Kenshiro and Kiyoguchi and things like that. And so Olas Kuwaga is going to be a guy that I think will be ready for the challenge if it happens. But right now, it's really hard for me to favor anybody against Yabuki because of the fact that, like I said, his boxing skills have matured and his punching power is out of this freaking world. He is really punching like that. So when you get a guy who can really box and he's equally heavy-handed, that's a hard guy to knock off. And he's been the first guy to stop. He's been the first guy to stop a lot of people, which will tell you that he really knows how to break these guys down. He's the only guy to knock out Kenshiro Taraji. He's the only guy to knock out Felix Alvarado. He's the only guy to knock out Angel Ayala. So that right there will tell you everything you need to know about Yabuki. And right now, Ricardo Sandoval is the man around these weights. Obviously, Sandoval is a Golden Boy Promotions fighter, but I was told by Rick Laser and a couple other prominent people that when Sandoval fought Kenshiro Taraji in Japan, that there were options put in this contract. So Mr. Honda does have a piece and a say-so in things that Sandoval does have going on. So therefore, that fight now becomes a legitimate fight that could happen for Yabuki with Sandoval. And Sandoval is a good boxer. He's a tricky boxer. He's a guy that knows his way around the ring, can counterpunch, has respectable pop. There was a reason why Kenshiro Taraji, even though I thought Kenshiro Taraji beat Sandoval, he didn't look as effective as he normally does because of the counterpunching and the movement and what Ricardo Sandoval ultimately brings to the table. So that's a great fight too. And that fight, I think, I'm doing a lot of talking about Yabuki's boxing skills. That would be the kind of fight that really tests his boxing skills. How mature have his boxing skills gotten? Because he's been showing his boxing skills against guys that come forward, that are more like sluggers and pressure fighters, like Angel Ayala, like Felix Alvarado. If he can show those same skills with his power against a guy like Sandoval, that right there would be an even bigger statement because of Sandoval's style and what he brings to the ring and just what his strengths are in the boxing ring, which are his counterpunching, his movement, his boxing skills, things like that. So, ultimately it's good news. It's unfortunate for Kameda on 3150 Promotions, but that's just how it is in Japan with Japanese boxing. Mr. Honda, for good, bad, or indifferent, he does control the big-time boxing, especially the boxing in Tokyo. And Yabuki was never going to get the big fights staying with them. So he's doing what's best for his career, and I respect that. And I shout out to 3150 Promotions. They did keep him active. They did keep him busy, and they got him in some good fights. But for those life-changing, truly legacy-defining fights that he wants, this is the move for him. And respect, and also, the Kenshiro Taraji trilogy is there. Yabuki could move up to 115 pounds and potentially fight him, or and that would be a massive fight in Japan because they both have knocked each other out, and they both are two of the best fighters Japan has produced over the last 10 plus years. So to get a definitive winner of that rivalry, that's also a fight you would need to go through Mr. Honda for, because he oversees all the big-time boxing in Japan. So that's the news, guys. Masamichi Yabuki is in transition from leaving Kameda to Mr. Honda and Tekken Promotions. And this should open up the door for the biggest, best, legacy-defining fights for Yabuki, who I feel, with all due respect to Inoue and Nakatani and Kenshiro, at this moment in time, based on current form, I think he's the second-best boxer in Japan behind Inoue. And for him to really make a run at, getting more Hall of Fame consideration, he's going to have to beat a guy like Sandoval or beat it to a Kenshiro again, something like that, or Olas Kuaga, so we'll see how it goes. But great news, and if you're a fan of these lighter weight categories, something you should be excited about yourself. So, I'll leave it at that. You guys leave it at that in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video.